Honestly, coming after people's tumble dryers. They wanted to have a much more expensive version, which are more eco-friendly apparently, but don't work.
Well, we did actually get one of those a few years ago because they're cheaper to run, but didn't dry your clothes, so what's the point of that?
What's the point? And, you know, just honestly, this net zero fanaticism is costing every family in this country hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
How much difference is it really going to make if a few people buy a different tumble dryer? It does seem a bit of a waste of effort. But he might be our next Prime Minister, Andrew.
Well, could well be.
Maybe the House of Commons will be powered by heat pumps.
Exactly. As ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 9:30. The top story this hour: attacks on Jewish people in the UK are now being described as the biggest national security emergency in almost a decade. That's from the government's terror advisor Jonathan Hall after a stabbing in Golders Green declared a terrorist incident. The suspect is in custody as ministers pledge more protection for Jewish communities. Experts warn the global food system is under growing pressure from climate shocks, conflict and biodiversity loss. A report led by Angela Ruskin University says the risk could threaten economies and even human survival. Oil prices have surged now to their highest level since 2022 after reports the US could be preparing military action against Iran. Brent crude briefly jumped to more than $126 a barrel as fears grow of further escalation in the Middle East. Here, millions of households are now cutting back, with some skipping meals due to the rising costs. Research suggests consumer confidence has dropped to its lowest level since 2022. A report says that organised crime is operating on UK high streets, with some shops acting as fronts. Chartered Trading Standards Institute says up to half of some retailers may have links to criminal networks. Officers say the problem is growing amid major funding cuts. And business leaders are warning a growing skills gap is holding back the economy. The Confederation of British Industry says firms can't find the workers they need, while young people are struggling to find jobs. They're now calling for urgent reform. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup of all the top stories at 10.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the government has pledged £25 million to enhance security for Jewish communities after the terror incident in Golders Green, where 2 Jewish men were stabbed in broad daylight simply for being Jewish.
Well, it does sound like a pathetic amount of money, and as always, politicians have condemned it and said we must learn from the events. Well, we know now that a 45-year-old man, a British national born in Somalia who came to the UK legally, is in custody after being arrested on suspicion of attempted murder.
Israeli officials have warned that antisemitism on Britain's streets is now out of control. So, what is the government doing about it? Just think about this. I was thinking about it. You remember at the Glastonbury Festival last year, that guy called Bob Villan chanting death to the Israeli Defence Force. Vile anti-Semitism wasn't charged.
No, absolutely.
I mean, are they taking it seriously or not? If he'd been, I would say this, if he was chanting death to Muslim community leaders, he would have been charged.
Yeah,
I'm sure of it. They are not. I just don't think the authorities are taking it seriously because the Jewish community is so tiny. What is it? Half of 1%.
That's right. And Martin Daubney had a guest on his show yesterday from, I think it was from the Labour Friends of Israel, and he was saying that, yes, of course, there are anti-Muslim attacks as well in this country, but per head, per capita, Jews are 8 times as likely to face that as Muslims, and also obviously many, many more times of people who aren't obviously religious. But I mean, there's so much to this, Andrew, isn't there? There's all the protests that have taken place since October the 7th and all the anti-Semitic chants. There's, of course, what are the Iranians up to? Are they coordinating this? There's perhaps mental illness involved. There are people on the streets who are probably should be incarcerated and yet are free to roam. So there's a lot of different angles to this, aren't there?
Yeah, and there's a lot of Jew hating.
Absolutely.
I'm afraid. Let's talk to GB News Home Security Editor Mark White, who is in Golders Green for us. Mark.
Well, yesterday, of course, we got the information in the afternoon from the Metropolitan Police Commissioner that the key suspect who is under arrest in connection with the double stabbing is someone known to the authorities, had a history of violence and mental health issues. We knew that, but it took until late into the evening before they confirmed that actually this individual was born in Somalia, but was a British citizen. And then again, it's only been this morning that sources have confirmed to me that he arrived as a child into the UK in the early 90s, probably accompanied by his family. He entered the UK legally, we're told, so not on the back of a boat, not that they had that issue back then anyway, but came to the UK at that point, and at some point over the years was granted British citizenship. Well, he is in custody at the moment, and he is being questioned by the authorities as they try to piece together the exact circumstances of what happened here and try to look for what was the motivating factor. But when you speak to people around this community here, they are very certain of one thing, and that is that the violence that we see now playing out in Jewish communities in the UK and beyond is in part being exacerbated, as being fueled by the likes of the kind of rhetoric we see at these marches, these pro-Palestinian marches. And the difficulty is, while of course you can have sympathy for innocent civilians caught up in the war in Gaza, it gets, subsumed by others who have an agenda on these marches, an agenda of hating Jews, and you get then people who are involved in chanting. Sometimes you don't even know when they're chanting from the river to the sea what that actually means, or globalise the Intifada. Well, globalise the Intifada, according to the people we've been speaking to, is exactly what you're seeing here. Attacks and violence taking place outside of the Middle East in countries like the UK. And while it's all well and good for the government to come up with £25 million more for security, that is like closing the stable door after the horse has bolted. It's dealing with the symptom. It's not dealing with the causes of the hatred that is allowed to fester in communities and grow to the point where people enact their rage in such a violent way.
All right, Mark, that's Mark White in Golders Green, and we'll be joining Mark later, of course, throughout the programme.
Thank you, Mark. Well, joining us now is journalist and author Stephen Pollard. Stephen, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I've just been reading your article in The Sun yesterday about this horrific incident, and you say that you're not ashamed to admit that you, as a British Jew, are scared. Have you become more scared over recent months?
Absolutely, yes, I really have. Just over a decade ago, I used to edit the Jewish Chronicle, and I was discovered to be on an Islamist hit list, and I had to have police protection. Honestly, I'm more scared now than I was then. That was a kind of, isolated incident, which was self-contained, as it were. It was a particular group. The problem that we face now is it's almost normal to walk down the street and expect to see some kind of anti-Semitic incident. I mean, the thing that's really interesting in a way, interesting is the wrong word, is that, we have reports of these major incidents, but what doesn't get reported, it barely gets reported to the police, let alone in the media, is, just day-to-day anti-Semitism, where you'll be walking down the street, someone will see you perhaps with a kippah on and just scream filthy Jew. Doesn't mean anything beyond that, but it's part of, I think, the phrase that people now talk about is ambient anti-Semitism, that is kind of just there in the atmosphere. And that, I think, is the real problem. It's really important what the government's doing in terms of adding security, but it's not, number one, it's not remotely enough. I mean, in France, for instance, where one has to say anti-Semitism attacks are much worse even than they are here, they send the army in. They have army patrols outside Jewish schools, Jewish synagogues, and so on. And I think there's a very strong case, given the limited manpower of the police that are available, there's a very strong case for that. But beyond that, that is dealing with the symptoms, as Mark White said in his report just now. I heard a really interesting analogy this morning. Somebody said, if there was a bridge and people kept falling off it, and the response was to build hospitals either side of the bridge to treat those people, you'd say, well, that's the wrong response. You want to find out why people keep falling off the bridge and deal with that. And that's the problem. So, Mark quite rightly talked about the hate marches, as Suella Braverman quite rightly called them when she was Home Secretary. But there's a fundamental problem here, which is it's all very well. People like me have been calling for the police to arrest people, which I think they should have been doing from the start. However, the police can arrest people, but the real problem is that the Crown Prosecution Service repeatedly refuses to prosecute people. You may recall that in 2021, a convoy drove through northwest London, the area where the Jewish community is concentrated, screaming. There was at least 6 cars with loudspeakers screaming, kill the Jews, rape their daughters. The police found who the people were, but the Crown Prosecution Service dropped all charges against them. Those people walk the streets now. And that's the problem, that the Crown Prosecution Service has been described to me as the most woke organisation in Whitehall or in government. They simply refuse to take anti-Semitism seriously. And it's sometimes taken individual groups, such as the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, to take out private prosecutions. I mean, this is ridiculous. And unless we get a grip on that, we're never even going to start dealing with this.
And Stephen, we have to ask this: if that convoy of cars had driven through a predominantly Muslim community, chanting hatred towards murder Muslims, rape their daughters, I think you and I would agree the Crown Prosecution Service would have prosecuted people.
100%, absolutely, obviously. I mean, also, we need to face up to reality here. People are afraid to say what the facts speak, which is that overwhelmingly, these attacks, they don't come from the far right, from the old-fashioned fascists, as it were. They come from radicalized Muslims. And people don't say that because they think it's racist somehow to say that. It's not. You're not saying that Muslims generally are responsible for this. You're talking about radicalized Muslims. But until we recognize that, until we recognize the hate that's spread in, I mean, there are mosques which proudly put on their own websites sermons from imams, which are pure hatred, which talk about, how the Jews are filth and vermin and they need to be rid from the earth and that kind of stuff. And they put they're out there now. If you look on social media, there are a number of sites which pick up on these and report them for people to look at. And yet nothing is done about them. Nothing is done within the Muslim community and nothing is done by the authorities. And it's no wonder that we get a response like this. It's not rocket science. If you have people out there spreading hate, saying kill the Jews, as Mark White said, globalise the Intifada, means quite literally take the old Intifada that took place in Israel, which was to kill Israelis, to kill Jews, and globalise it. And that's what we're seeing.
All right, Stephen, that's Stephen Pollard speaking very passionately there. We should call out as well what Zach Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, said only last week when he said we need to have a conversation about whether there is a perception of unsafety for Jewish people or real unsafety. Well, Mr Polanski, we've seen the answer to your very interesting hypothetical question. Shocking. And that is a man who's a leader of a major political party.
Very concerning. Last night, at a debate between the Conservatives and Reform that I was at in Westminster, Claire Coutinho, the Shadow Energy Secretary, did actually say she thought the greatest threat to Britain was the Green Party. Well, we shall see.
With views like that. Now, still ahead, going to be joined by the Christian Lib Dem candidate who says he was forced out of the party due to his religious beliefs.
But up next, Sir Keir Starmer has condemned the terror attack in Golders Green.
We're very much in touch with the community and I'll visit as soon as possible.
So why hasn't he been up there?
Good.
Friday he's going to be jeered.
Well, he probably will be. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Stick with us.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again. Some sparkling spring sunshine in the south of France at the moment. That extends down into much of northern Italy and Croatia too. Some heavy showers in Spain, particularly across the east, perhaps affecting Barcelona and maybe Mallorca too. The heavy showers possible in Sicily and over the mainland of Greece, although most of the Greek islands dry, fine and sunny. We'll continue with sunny skies in Croatia right the way through the weekends. Could see a bit more cloud heading to Nice and a continued risk of some showers in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we honour the heroic Australian and New Zealand combatants of bygone wars, the Royal British Legion Scotland welcomed the family of one standout serviceman to Edinburgh. Unmatched in bravery and gilded in valour, New Zealander Clive Franklin Collett was a vanguard of our skies. The test pilot turned flight commander earned the Military Cross and Bar after just 2 months of aerial combat for leading his formation with great skill and taking out 5 enemy aircraft in 1 week with great dash and determination. He notably performed the first parachute jump of any British or Commonwealth soldier from an aircraft in 1916. The Royal British Legion Scotland first celebrated Anzac Day in 1927. Events organiser Brian Ward explains the most recent chapter in the Scottish Legion's century of celebration.
We first started doing Anzac Day services at the Scottish National War Memorial in 1927, so it's one of our longest running events. More recently, we have started doing the events in Comley Bank Cemetery. We did a broadcast with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation to ask for the families of the deceased that's inside Comley Bank Cemetery to tune into. And of the 16, I believe we got 8 families.
Mandy says her pride goes beyond her grandfather's medals and commendations.
I guess it's been a deep pride in who he was, not the fact that about medals or things like that, but the courage, the bravery, the attempt at a parachute jump, the first person to do a parachute jump for Britain in front of King George V and Queen Mary, and I thought, that's pretty special.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 9 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Just to remind ourselves what some of our MPs have said in response to that latest terror attack in Golders Green. Remember, just a few weeks after those 4 Jewish community ambulances were torched.
Know firsthand the anxiety that is causing in the community.
And our thoughts and prayers today and tonight will be the 2 Londoners.
But we stand in solidarity with those communities who right now are feeling threatened.
An extreme indulgence of anti-Semitism and extremism on our streets. It has to end.
Not enough is being done to protect Britain's Jewish community, and if Iranian agents are behind it, they should be expelled.
Now, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is due to meet criminal justice agencies in Downing Street in response to yesterday's appalling anti-Semitic attack. But when will we see him in North London?
GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley joins us now. Prime Minister's talking the talk, but what's it, £25 million extra But as we heard from Stephen Pollard, it's not tackling the root cause.
Well, exactly. And we have heard from the Prime Minister that he wants to tackle the root cause of anti-Semitism. He's meeting police and the CPS this morning. Let's see where that conversation gets us. He says that he wants to have swift and effective justice achieved in these situations. I think, quite worryingly, this attacker committed another attack in Borough early in the week, and there wasn't swift and effective justice, and he was allowed to continue on his rampage and commit these attacks in Golders Green. I think this is a real moment for the government, and it could be very, very damaging. Yesterday, one of the victims of the attack spoke to ITV and said that he blames the government. He said the government are the ones who could stop this happening, and they haven't stopped this happening. I think there was going to be a lot more focus now on those marches that have been taking place in London, those pro-Palestine marches, where there is so much anti-Semitism blatantly, nakedly on the streets of London. Shaban Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has made moves to sort of contain, restrain some of these protests. Some of them are now only allowed to run for a certain number of hours. Some of them have been turned into standing protests rather than marches. That's almost all she can do within the legislation as it is. Will Labour put forward some more legislation, even though the Policing Act has just been passed? That would be one option. But until Keir Starmer talks about what the actual root of anti-Semitism is, it's going to be very difficult to address it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Olivia, so much. Well, coming up next, we're going to be joined by a man who says he was kicked out of the Lib Dems for his Christian beliefs. So don't go anywhere. We've got that live.
This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show, GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunny weather to come for most of us today. Pretty warm as well. Still quite windy in the south, although not as windy as yesterday. One or two showers just cropping up across parts of the southwest of England. So one or two showers, Devon, Cornwall, Isles of Scilly possible this morning. Bit of mist and low cloud around the northeast as well. That should tend to melt away. And then, as I said, most places dry and sunny. Still a noticeable breeze coming in from the east. That'll bring temperatures down a bit on the east coast, but inland 21, 22, maybe 23 degrees Celsius, so that's going to feel pretty warm in the afternoon sunshine. The winds, as I said, not as strong as yesterday, but still quite noticeable. Increasing chance of a few more clouds coming into parts of South Wales this afternoon, and also here the possibility of a shower or two, particularly in Pembrokeshire. An increasing cloud for Northern Ireland. Also here, the threat, that's all it is, of some showers coming in at times into the evening, particularly across the west. Elsewhere, generally dry and sunny. That breeze noticeable if you're on the east coast of Scotland. Starting off with a bit of ha here this morning, but that hopefully will tend to clear away and we'll see quite a bit of sunshine. Staying dry and clear for the most part overnight, but we'll see more of that cloud coming into Northern Ireland, so increasing chance of seeing some showers here, perhaps into West Wales and southwest and northwest Scotland by the time we get to first thing tomorrow morning. Some misty conditions inland as temperatures tend to dip away down to 2 or 3 degrees over parts of northern England, not far off freezing in some rural spots, but generally temperatures holding up at 6 or 7 Celsius in most towns and cities. More sunny weather to come tomorrow and lighter winds for eastern parts and central parts of England, most of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, southwest England, a bit more cloud here, and I think we will see a few more showers tomorrow. Increasing chance of some heavy, even thundery downpours by the afternoon, but in the sunshine we could get up to 25 or 26 degrees. Bye for now.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8, junction 15 eastbound on-slips from Castle Street and Stirling Road are closed because of essential overnight roadworks. On the M4 eastbound, heavy congestion is building between junction 34 at Miskin and junction 33 at Capel Lenilton. In Derbyshire, the A38 northbound at the junction with the A50 has a lane closed due to an abandoned vehicle, causing around 10 minutes of delays. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted at Doncaster, and the Elizabeth line has disruption between London Paddington and Heathrow terminals or Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win our biggest prize of the year so far. You could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Thursday the 30th of April. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Terror on the streets of Britain yet again. Another attack on the Jewish community. Police have said it is a terrorist incident.
Down on the ground! Down on the ground! Step back! Hey, the taser! Jacket!
And are we hearing just more empty words of condemnation from our politicians?
Know firsthand the anxiety that is causing in the community.
In our thoughts and prayers today and tonight will be the 2 Londoners.
But we stand in solidarity with those communities who right now are feeling threatened.
An extreme indulgence of anti-Semitism and extremism on our streets. It has to end.
Not enough is being done to protect Britain's Jewish community, and if Iranian agents are behind it, they should be expelled.
Well, 2 Jewish people were stabbed yesterday in broad daylight in North London, as this morning the government pledges £25 million for extra security. A community living in fear heckled Met Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley and the local MP Sarah Sackman at the scene.
Do you think that visibly Jewish people are safe on the streets of London?
Well, the 45-year-old suspect is still being held in police custody. It's now been confirmed he was born in Somalia, arrived in the UK as a child, and then was granted nationality. He entered the country legally.
Christian purge. Lib Dems admit unlawful discrimination with explosive claims a Christian candidate was mocked, abused and forced out of the party. He sits with us in the studio very shortly.
And a royal 9/11 tribute. The King and Queen say they stand in enduring solidarity with the American people as they commemorate those killed 25 years ago in New York.
Rinse and rip-off. Now Net Zero Secretary Ed Miliband is coming after the traditional tumble dryer and is pushing for pricier heat pump models instead. When will it end?
Andrew, I'm really looking forward to speaking to David Campanale in a few minutes. Of course, he should have been the MP for Sutton-on-Cheam now, a seat that the Lib Dems won at the last election. He was selected in 2022, but forced out because of his Christian beliefs. Extraordinary. Not very liberal.
No, but illiberal, and so stay tuned for that interview. And as ever, we'd like to hear what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 10 o'clock. Well, the top story this hour, attacks on Jewish people in the UK are now being described as the biggest national security emergency in almost a decade. The government's terror advisor, Jonathan Hall-Casey, issued that warning after a stabbing in Golders Green, now formally declared a terror incident. 2 Jewish men, aged 34 and 76, were attacked in the heart of one of London's largest Jewish communities. A 45-year-old British man remains in custody on suspicion of attempted murder, with police also investigating a second incident earlier the same day in south-east London, believed to involve the same suspect. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says that the Jewish community is facing very real fear and announced £25 million to security at synagogues, schools and community centres. In other news, oil prices have surged to their highest level since 2022 after reports the US is considering new military action against Iran. Brent crude jumped to more than $126 a barrel as traders reacted to claims that US Central Command has drawn up plans for potential strikes. The reports suggest a wave of short and powerful attacks as tensions rise and peace talks are stalling. The key Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed, meanwhile, a route that carries around a fifth of the world's energy supply. Analysts warn even the threat of escalation is enough to send prices sharply higher. That comes as experts are also warning that the global food system is becoming increasingly fragile, with conflict putting supply chains under strain. A report led by Anglia Ruskin University says rising food prices and falling crop yields are already being felt. It warns that long-term risks could include ecosystem collapse, mass migration and even civil unrest. Researchers say global conflict, including tensions in the Middle East, is making the situation worse. The government says, though, the UK remains resilient, but experts are calling for urgent, radical action to protect food security. Millions of households, meanwhile, are cutting back on food, travel and social life as cost pressures are deepening. Research suggests consumer confidence has fallen to its lowest level since the cost of living crisis. It estimates around 3 million households are now skipping meals to save money. More than half are making changes just to cover essential spending, including using savings or borrowing. Experts warn that without intervention, more families could be pushed into serious financial difficulty. And more than 13,000 people have signed a petition urging the government to introduce legally binding targets to reduce poverty. The bigger issue says that there is a growing gap between England and Scotland, where child poverty has fallen by 12% since 2018. In contrast, levels in England and Wales have risen by 15%. The Big Issue's founder, John Bird, says goodwill is not enough and is calling for urgent legislation to drive real change. But the government says its child poverty strategy will lift more than 500,000 children out of poverty and insists that progress is already being made. Organised crime could be operating on high streets across the UK, hidden in everyday businesses. A report from the Chartered Trading Standards Institute suggests some vape shops, convenience stores and takeaways are being used as fronts. Nearly all trading standards officers surveyed say that they are aware of criminal groups operating locally. The report warns funding cuts of up to 50% have left enforcement stretched as illegal activity expands. And a widening gap between skills and jobs is holding back economic growth, according to business leaders. The Confederation of British Industry says 9 in 10 firms now report major skill shortages. At the same time, nearly 1 million young people are not in work, in education or training. Chair Cressida Hogg says that the system is failing to connect opportunity with talent, and she's calling for urgent reform, warning the current system is locking young people out of work. Those are the 10 o'clock headlines. Back to Andrew and Miriam shortly. First, though, a look at the morning's markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Just coming up to 8 minutes past 10, the markets for you. The pound will buy $1.3485 and €1.1549. The price of gold is £3,424 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,263 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Lots of texts and emails, I think, Miriam.
Yes, people are outraged about the attack in Golders Green yesterday. One friend of GB News says, paying for Jewish people to have more security is nothing more than sanctioning the violence against them. We should be dealing with the real causes. Yeah, that was really interesting, wasn't it? That Dan Jarvis, the security minister, said we need to deal with the root causes of anti-Semitism, but he didn't say what those were. Linda says, I noticed the Prime Minister has not visited Golders Green yet in the wake of the stabbings yesterday. Is he afraid of hearing some home truths from local residents, I wonder? I
suspect he is, and I don't think Sadiq Khan's been there yet either, and he's the Police and Crime Commissioner for London as well as being Mayor.
If you were advising Keir Starmer, would you advise him to go?
He's meant to be the Prime Minister and the leader. He's got to go and do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And engage.
Yeah. Well, Mark White will be there if he does turn up. Get your views and comments into gbnews.com/your say.
Now, the Liberal Democrats are rightly under fire after blocking a candidate over his Christian views.
Well, the party have admitted to unlawful religious discrimination and breaching the human rights of the former BBC journalist David Campanale. And David joins us in the studio now. I'm delighted to say, David, thank you so much for coming in. Now, you fought this 4-year legal battle. You were selected to stand in Sutton and Cheam in 2022, but what happened next?
Well, I was deselected by the members, but then I've subsequently won in the court. But on this sad day, I think we first have to reflect that there's a difference between religiously aggravated violence and the hatred experienced by the Jewish community of Britain, who must feel increasingly that they're under siege, that they've been made hostage to a political system that is not responding to the vulnerability of Jews in our community. So there's a difference between religiously aggravated violence and religious discrimination. But after legal exchanges that began 4 years ago, so the moment after I was selected, so the members in Sutton and Cheam voted for me in a democratic process. It was normal campaigning in all political parties for a selection in a target seat. You go and visit all the members, bang on the doors, deliver the leaflets. This is who I am. This is my background. This is what I believe. So many people in the Liberal Democrats are active Christians, but they will be dismayed that after the members voted for me in a democratic process, the activists said, you didn't confess your Christian beliefs enough. Why didn't you disclose that you hold these Christian beliefs on issues of conscience? Now, Christians are motivated on a whole range of matters. In my case, it's poverty. It's the issue of access to healthcare, the equal access to healthcare. My mother was a lifelong user of the Royal Marsden Hospital in Belmont in Sutton. And so access to urgent, needed cancer care is a priority for me. But what the Lib Dems activists wanted to do was to test me about my religious beliefs, which are personal to me. They could have done it at any time, but it was only once I'd won that they wanted to row back on the democratic decision of the members.
Were you disappointed about the lack of support from the party leadership?
So, personally, Ed Davey told me that he thought there was a smack of sour grapes going on with the losing side, and he gave his solidarity to me in the experience. However, not one Liberal Democrat in the parliamentary party, when they knew about the law being broken, spoke up about it, and that remains the case. So they were told internally that the law was being broken. So they were warned by Sir Simon Hughes, former Minister for Justice, Anglican, who showed tremendous solidarity throughout this experience, which has been harrowing for myself and disturbing for members of my family and those who know me, that this could even happen in Britain today, and certainly not in a major political party. And it's sad that when the active support was needed of the tiers of appeal in the party, of the different panels, that they all stood back and joined in. It was as if I was being kicked in the street. And instead of coming over to me and standing around and saying, this cannot happen in a democratic party, they joined in. and they used the party procedures illegally. So what this court case has resolved is that I've been subject to illegal direct religious discrimination, and the way in which the party procedures were used to essentially punish me for how I might vote on issues of conscience
which are free votes,
discrimination.
and that's how it operates now.
But they're not free votes. So if you are a Christian, you're about to be selected in a winnable seat, when it's discovered that actually, I was asked, is it true you're going to stick with your conscience?
Yeah.
I said, well, if it's all right with you, I'd like to.
And will this be on issues like abortion, David? Is this what we're talking about?
That and assisted suicide.
Yeah.
I said at the hustings, in front of the members, I don't want to live in a culture where older and vulnerable people feel that they've got to do themselves in. I will not vote for that in Parliament.
Yeah.
I believe in I'm committed to respect for the most vulnerable people in our society, including unborn life and those all the way up to a natural death. But the members, the activists, said, if you're going to stick with your conscience, we're going to boycott your campaign. And they did. Instead of them being dealt with for breaking the Equality Act, and Sir Simon Hughes warned them you're breaking the law, he was backed up in that judgment by what was effectively a legal opinion produced by Lord Jonathan Marks, KC, a non-practising Jew, but somebody who stood by me in a 9-hour appeal. He used his expertise to support me. I was being interrogated for 9 hours, and he stood by me throughout, and he kept on saying, there is no such thing as refusing to, as not disclosing your religious beliefs. This is an illegal act of religious discrimination. Instead of listening to their own internal experts, a former Minister for Justice, the legal affairs spokesman of the party in the House of Lords, the party said, we're just going to throw you out because these kinds of beliefs, even on issues of conscience, will not be tolerated.
That's so interesting because the whole idea of liberalism is to tolerate other people's beliefs and even to defend those beliefs in that speech, even if you disagree with that. But in the documents, the Liberal Democrats have admitted that there's no longer any place for those beliefs, or rather that they reserve the right to deselect somebody if they have them. I mean, that is unlawful, not just illiberal.
It's unlawful. And it's time now for members of Parliament in the Liberal Democrat benches to speak out. They need to deal with the lawbreakers. They need to deal with the failed procedures. But the good news, I've got to say, is that the courts this is a decision in my favour. Yeah. They submitted a legal defence for a year, stood behind it as a statement of truth to the court, and then capitulated because they knew. I mean, a senior member of the Lib Dems rang me up, and he said, "We're going to fold on this case. We're not going to. We're going to admit everything." And I said, "Well, have you read the evidence?" Yeah. And he said, "Well, I have." And I said, "Well, what do you make of it?" He said, "Well, if it went to trial, if it went to a court hearing, we're going to lose badly." So they've cut their losses. But I want to say to anyone listening to this, whether you're a Christian or not, if you're experiencing bullying and harassment, you don't have to put up with it. Yeah. Use the National Bullying Helpline. Tell a friend. I'd like to encourage you to make contemporaneous notes, even if it's a WhatsApp or a message on your phone, or tell a member of the family, but record it the moment it's happened, because it's all admissible evidence in the court.
What would you say to Ed Davey if he was watching right now?
Ed, you're forgiven, because I do feel personally let down by you. Luke Taylor, who was one of the conspirators who came third in the contest, told me in a message that he couldn't get over the fact that he'd lost, was the ringleader who organised the 20 letters of deselection, according to the local party chair who told me that. I forgive them both as a Christian, and I generally mean them good in their political careers. But there has to be accountability.
They should be kicked out of the party. They've broken the law.
Well, it's not just that they have admitted that there has been law-breaking. What we've seen is that under the party's own constitution, breaches of the Equality Act, and there were multiple breaches in my legal case, are grounds of expulsion. So we will only take seriously any statement from the Lib Dems on their tolerance for Christians and tolerance of all people of faiths and of none, is if they start to deal with the mess in the party's own backyard.
Did this cost you a lot of money? Legal costs?
It costs a six-figure legal costs, but I'd like to thank the body of Christ everywhere in Britain who responded to my crowdfunder through Citizen Go. So to the 1,514 people watching this who stumped up, my legal fund is very significant, and I'm very grateful that the public have stood by me on this.
Right.
But the Lib Dems will have to pay that now.
So it's a judge that will decide the damages.
Okay, yeah.
The party in the court concession have agreed to pay damages.
Yes, OK.
And costs tend to follow. But the issue now is, what about all those people who were let down in Sutton and Cheam, who wanted to vote for me, who were members who democratically chose me? My appeal is yet to be heard. I don't know if you can imagine this, but my appeal against deselection has yet to be completely heard. So I may
4
actually
years
come out
later.
of this. But the party also needs to hold an investigation, I think. I mean, we've, in a sense, had one. The court has ruled on the facts. The parties admitted that they got it wrong. I'm grateful, too, for my barrister, Alistair Henderson, and AI Law, my solicitors. Now, Alistair was the commissioner of the Equality Commission who investigated anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. So back to anti-Semitism again.
Yeah.
And he produced a report that the Labour Party then had to act on. And I was invited to talk to Alistair in his chambers because he agreed to take on my case. And I said, well, what do you make? Have you seen the evidence? And he said, well, I have. And I said, well, what do you make of it? And he said, well, the Liberal Democrats have broken the law. And I said, well, which bit of it? And he said, well, all of it.
Gosh.
Harassment, victimisation, indirect religious discrimination, direct religious discrimination. And it's multiple law-breaking by the Liberal Democrats. And they've shown no remorse, no expression of repentance, certainly no apology to the members in Sutton and Cheam who backed me. But all those people are owed an apology. Christians in public life need to hear from one of our biggest parties, 72 members of Parliament, that they regret what has happened, that they're committed to change, and that they will stand up for fundamental religious liberties in our country, starting first, I just want to come back to this, starting first with the Jewish community.
Yes.
We have got to act and not just sit back and allow acts of hate on the streets of Britain.
Right.
David Campanale, thank you so much for coming in. Really, really appreciate you coming in. And Ed Davey, if you're listening, you're very welcome to come on as well and put your side of the story.
We do have a statement from the Lib Dems, which says, Miriam?
This is an ongoing legal case, so it would not be appropriate to comment. The Liberal Democrats are home to people of all faiths and none, including many Christians. 3 Liberal Democrat MPs in neighbouring seats to Sutton and Cheam are practising Christians, including the party leader, Ed Davey.
You break the law, mate. That's the truth. That's what they did.
Well, coming up next, a 45-year-old British man born in Somalia has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and remains in custody after stabbing 2 Jewish men in London. Are we in a national emergency?
And the Prime Minister's going to hold a meeting in Downing Street with the Criminal Justice Agency shortly. We're going through that and more with Karen Malone and Nigel Nelson, our panel this morning. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight on the
unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It is 23 minutes past 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Carol Malone and Nigel Nelson are in the studio. Carol Malone, another shocking attack on the Jewish community, the spiritual home of the Britain's Jewish community, Golders Green, just a month after the ambulances were torched, 4 of them.
You know, it's... How many more people are going to have to be hurt before this government actually steps up and does something concrete to stop it? You know, Starmer's labelled it a national emergency, called it a terrorist attack, called a Cobra meeting, all words, no actions to actually protect the Jews in this community. No. To be a Jew today in Britain is terrifying. They can't walk. You know, I've seen lots of pieces today by Jewish people who've written pieces in various papers. All of them, they're very sensible people. They're frightened to walk the streets now of this country, and it's out of control. And you know, there's lots of things that can be done. The anti-Semitism has rocketed since the attack in Israel, but also since the Palestinian marches in this country. And we know that it's rocketed on that basis. And we have seen Jews being assaulted. We've seen them being harassed. We've seen them tormented on the streets by these marchers. Very little gets done. Cops stand by while it's happening. They might arrest them, but nothing ever happens to these people. These marches have got to be stopped. I don't give a stuff about free speech and free expression anymore, not when people's lives are at risk, because this could very easily have been a double murder, very easily. And then what this government said, oh, it's terrible. They did the same after the Heaton Park attack on the synagogue. They said how terrible it was, how dreadful, how vile. And what have they done since? They've given Jews a couple of extra patrols in their areas, but nothing to actually stop it, because this lunatic was running around. And we're hearing already, and this drives you nuts, that he has mental health issues. Every terrorist is mentally ill. They're all nuts. That shouldn't be a free pass to get away with this.
I think that's a really interesting point, Carol, because there are obviously so many issues here, underlying anti-Semitism, security problems, the marches, but there is an element of there are people in our societies that are severely mentally ill that until the 60s or 70s would have been in institutions for life and not free to go around and kill. Do you think that's a part of this problem?
Yes, it is. And this is the trouble with this something must be done attitude. Right, we must get things done, we mustn't keep talking about it. The question obviously is, would it actually help? So aside from whether or not you should take the move of banning protests, which people should be allowed to go and do, would it actually help?
Well,
would you drive things underground?
Yes. No, but the 3 people that Valdir Kalakane killed would still be alive today if he had been put in the institution and kept there.
We're talking about somebody who was mentally ill. What I'm saying is that you just mentioned about, well, let's stop the Palestinian marches. Yes. Why would that necessarily help a situation like this?
But it's another branch of the problem.
It's been fed.
Not related to the mental health issue.
Then we could always argue about the banning the IGRC, which is about to happen anyway.
I mentioned earlier, last summer at the Glastonbury Festival, Bob Dylan was on stage chanting "Death to the idea."
And he should have been charged for that.
Yes. Wasn't charged. Yeah. Nothing happened to him, and then he's done it again. And the wretched BBC broadcast it and didn't even take it down.
But whether or not
that shows the state is not taking anti-Semitism seriously.
No, I think you're absolutely right there. He should have been charged for that. I'm assuming he wasn't just because of a technicality, but things like that should be stamped down. And what I'm saying is that
people think you can get away with it.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about various different things here. So if you're talking about actually clamping down on people who are overtly anti-Semitic, absolutely, they should do that, and the full force of the law should come against them.
But they haven't, Nigel. That's the point. We've seen this. You know, after Heaton Park, we heard all those platitudes again, and these people are not being arrested. You know, and I blame a lot of these middle-aged, middle-class leftists who walk around the streets of this country on those marches wearing the keffiyeh scarves, and they are part of the problem because they are fostering they are literally fostering anti-Semitism because they're anti-Israel. Israel today have come out very strongly and said it's this government's policies that are to blame here, that it is our government that is not being tough enough. So if Israel can do that, why can't this government?
But there's a difference between opposing Israeli policy, especially in Gaza, and being anti-Semitic. I mean, that's the definition of anti-Semitism.
But a lot of the Jewish hatred on our streets today is because of what the Israeli Defence Forces have been doing in Gaza. It is outrageous that Jewish people in this country being blamed for it, or Jewish people in Israel.
Yes, I mean the moment you stop criticising Israel and then blame all Jews, that is anti-Semitism. That is the international definition of anti-Semitism.
It's the problem as well. It is a tiny part of our population.
Yes.
Less than 1%. Yes. If it was a big part of our population, like the Muslim community, would there be more police action?
Do you know what?
Hang on.
This is a brilliant point, and Kemi Badenoch made exactly this point. She said this: if this was any other minority community in this country, particularly the Muslim community, there would be national outrage. Things would be done. But it's not Muslims. This is Jews, and so it doesn't matter when
places of worship get government grants. What goes to mosques averages out up to about £40,000. What goes to synagogues comes up to about £150,000. Churches get about £10,000. So in that sense, the Muslims are not being prioritised in any way.
Jewish communities are having to pay for protection at their own
It was a Jewish community group which stopped this guy. It wasn't the police in the first instance.
Right.
It was the Jewish community group. So presumably they do that work voluntarily.
But this will also come back to issues of free speech, because certainly people on the right don't like the hate marches, want them banned, but people on the left don't want, some of the kind of nationalist marches that we've seen. And both sides will argue, well, it's free speech. But
you can't compare the two. Well, the amount of nationalist marches does not compare.
Yes, you're right. In terms of scale, but in terms of, both of these marches and protest campaigns are mostly people who we might disagree with, but are expressing their views peacefully, and a few hardliners who are there to cause trouble. And that's, that's the question. Where do we draw the line? And do we want decency as well as freedom of speech?
Freedom of speech leads to people getting stabbed in the street, particularly Jews. We've got to clamp down on that.
But that's the thing that this is what gets you into difficulties about freedom. Does somebody choose to stab someone because of what they've heard on the street? And if they did, aren't they still culpable for their own crime, whatever they've heard?
You just have to go on social media and you see idiots who don't even understand what's going on in Israel. If they see a Jewish person in the street, they shout "baby killer" at them because this is what they've heard.
So what would you do? Ban social media? I mean, this is the question. What would you do?
I'd get the people who are calling the Jews baby killers in jail. That's what I'd do straight away.
But then you'd be completely limiting free speech.
You can't call people baby killers. Innocent people baby killers.
But these are the questions that we have to answer, and they're questions that both sides will strongly disagree on.
And this is sort of the crux of the matter, that what we're talking about there is anti-Semitism. If you're then accusing Jews of being responsible for what is happening in Gaza, that is anti-Semitic. If you're accusing Israel of what's happening in Gaza, that isn't.
But it's become a justification, Nigel. What's happening in Israel, it's becoming an excuse and a justification for assaulting, harassing Jews in this country.
Yes, I agree with you, and that's anti-Semitic, and that's the bit that we should be aiming at, which is why I'm a bit bothered about the idea, like you are, obviously, of banning protests on the back of it. I don't think it'll help, is my principal objection.
I think it'll help hugely, because what it'll mean is that, at least in London, Jews can go around on a Saturday and Sunday without being harassed. At least it would cut that down.
And I do actually agree. I do think they should be stopped. But in order to do that, we have to admit that we want to, as a society, balance free speech with decency, and that is not the free speech absolutism that we are hearing from a lot of quarters. We've got to admit that we've got to balance it.
You would ban the marches, although you are in favour of the right to actually have the marching.
I am in favour of balancing freedom of speech with concerns about security. I am not a free speech absolutist. And so I think because they've been going on for so long...
There's no such thing as absolute free speech anyway.
Well, no, but some people think there are. There absolutely is. And we shouldn't be stopping anybody.
Surely after a year plus, the marchers have made their point.
That's what I think.
We
but
don't
you
have
then
to
have to admit that we don't have unlimited free speech in this country, and there are other considerations. And there are many people on the right who are not ready to make that concession.
And also, let's point out, we have a government that is infamous for being infiltrated by anti-Semites. This is a decades-old thing with the Labour Party. They've never been able to...
Well, hang on. I mean, that was a problem under Jeremy Corbyn.
Yes.
And I think in Jeremy Corbyn's case, he was using unfortunate words by combining
and we've had problems since,
Hamas and Israel. Yeah.
We've had problems since.
And we shouldn't forget what Zach Polanski said, the leader of the Green Party.
Oh, my God almighty,
Is it a perception of unsafety or is it unsafety?
Carol, hold that thought, because we'll have you back in an hour. Thank you both so much for contributions so far.
We're going to get our 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. The top story this hour. Attacks on Jewish people in the UK are now being described as the biggest national security emergency in almost a decade. That's from the government's terror advisor after a stabbing in Golders Green declared as a terror incident. The suspect is in custody as ministers are pledging more protection for Jewish communities. Oil prices have surged to their highest level since 2022 after reports the US could be preparing fresh military action against Iran. Brent crude jumped to more than $126 a barrel as fears grow of further escalation in the Middle East. Experts are now warning the global food system is under growing pressure from conflict. A report led by Anglia Ruskin University says the risks could threaten economies and even human survival. Researchers say urgent action is needed to prevent long-term collapse. Millions of households are also cutting back here at home, with some skipping meals due to rising costs. Research suggests consumer confidence has dropped to its lowest level since 2022. And a report warns organised crime is operating on UK high streets, with some shops acting as fronts. Chartered Trading Standards Institute says up to half of some retailers may have links to criminal networks. Officers say the problem is growing amid major funding cuts. And business leaders are warning a growing skills gap is holding back economic growth. The Confederation of British Industry says firms can't find the workers that they need, while young people are struggling to find jobs. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup of all the top stories at 11.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Coming up next, we'll have the latest from Golders Green, a community that's now been rocked by a terror attack yesterday, as the Prime Minister will hold a meeting in Downing Street with criminal justice agencies shortly.
When's he going to Golders Green?
Yeah.
I wonder. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunny weather to come for most of us today. Pretty warm as well. Still quite windy in the south, although not as windy as yesterday. One or two showers just cropping up across parts of the southwest of England. So one or two showers, Devon, Cornwall, Isles of Scilly possible this morning. Bit of mist and low cloud around the northeast as well. That should tend to melt away. And then, as I said, most places dry and sunny. Still a noticeable breeze coming in from the east. That'll bring temperatures down a bit on the east coast, but inland 21, 22, maybe 23 degrees Celsius, so that's going to feel pretty warm in the afternoon sunshine. The winds, as I said, not as strong as yesterday, but still quite noticeable. Increasing chance of a few more clouds coming into parts of South Wales this afternoon, and also here the possibility of a shower or two, particularly in Pembrokeshire. An increasing cloud for Northern Ireland. Also here, the threat, that's all it is, of some showers coming in at times into the evening, particularly across the west. Elsewhere, generally dry and sunny. That breeze noticeable if you're on the east coast of Scotland. Starting off with a bit of ha here this morning, but that hopefully will tend to clear away and we'll see quite a bit of sunshine. Staying dry and clear for the most part overnight, but we'll see more of that cloud coming into Northern Ireland, so increasing chance of seeing some showers here, perhaps into West Wales and southwest and northwest Scotland by the time we get to first thing tomorrow morning. Some misty conditions inland as temperatures tend to dip away down to 2 or 3 degrees over parts of northern England, not far off freezing in some rural spots, but generally temperatures holding up at 6 or 7 Celsius in most towns and cities. More sunny weather to come tomorrow and lighter winds for eastern parts and central parts of England, most of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, southwest England, a bit more cloud here, and I think we will see a few more showers tomorrow. Increasing chance of some heavy, even thundery downpours by the afternoon, but in the sunshine we could get up to 25 or 26 degrees. Bye for now.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A470 southbound, expect congestion from Nantgarv to Corriton. In Derbyshire, the A38 northbound at the junction with the A50 faces, delays due to an abandoned vehicle, resulting in one lane being closed. Meanwhile, on the M6 northbound between junction 14 and junction 15, a serious crash has necessitated the closure of all lanes, causing lengthy queues. In rail news, Avanti West Coast services are experiencing delays between Chester and Llandudno Junction, and cross-country trains are disrupted at Doncaster. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 22 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom.
Well, the government's pledged £25 million to improve security for Jewish communities after the latest terror attack in Golders Green, where 2 Jewish men were stabbed in broad daylight merely for being Jewish.
Well, it doesn't seem an enormous amount of money, Andrew, and as always, politicians have condemned the attack and said that we must learn from these events.
45-year-old man, a British national born in Somalia, who came to the UK legally, is in custody after being arrested on suspicion of attempted murder.
Well, we're now joined down the line by the Iranian artist and policy analyst, Faza Alavi. Faza, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. What was your reaction when you yesterday heard about this horrific attack in Golders Green?
Well, I had an interview a few months ago about the issues going on in Iran, about the massacre taking place by the Islamic Republic of Iran in my own country. And as a part of that interview, I was talking about the fact that as a Muslim Iranian, I can freely wear my scarf and walk in the streets of London or other cities in Britain. But I know that my Jewish friends and my Israeli friends are not safe to wear kippah. And the moment that I saw yesterday, the video of the moment of stabbing, it happened the moment that a Jewish man put on his kippah. And it just reminded to me that you don't need any kind of magical skills for predicting what will happen and what will take place in this country in the future, in the near future. You just can see the reality. This will be the consequence when you clearly see that the Jewish people are not safe to wear kippah or other Jewish customs and walking in the streets of London.
And the terrible thing would be is if the members of the Jewish community start to stay indoors or they don't wear their traditional outfits because they are so frightened of attack.
That's exactly the issue. You need to have the religious freedom, the individual freedom to practice your religion. And it is really sad that today Muslims in Britain can freely practice that. But Jewish people cannot do that, and it's really horrible. I think the core side of this issue is that it will be the reality of Britain when you have the leadership, a prime minister, who cannot take any action against Islamic Republic, when the Islamic Republic attacks the military bases of Britain in Cyprus, just in the latest case in Operation Epic Fury. And when he doesn't any action like that, he will give a free pass to Islamists, to terrorists inside Britain, that, okay, I'm the person, I'm the leader of your country who governs all of the institutions in this country, and I am the friend of Islamic Republic of Iran, terrorists who are now in the war. So you can be free, you can go and chase Jewish people and just attack them, stab them, nothing will happen to you, or we just skip some of your attacks. I think that's the real message, and it's really sad, extremely terrible that Islamists and terrorists can just receive such message in Britain, but I think that's the reality. He's setting the value of Britain by his actions.
Faza, we've heard allegations that some imams in some mosques in Britain are preaching sermons that could be interpreted as anti-Semitic and encouraging people to attack Jews. What do you think the role and responsibility of the moderate Muslim community in this country should be? People like yourself, for example, how should you be speaking to other members of your community about this issue?
Well, I think they not only need to speak up about this, but they need to also take action for fixing this issue, because this is their own country. These kind of terrorist attacks starts from the Jews, but it doesn't stay that way, because after all, they come for all the people. I know that there would be tremendous risks for Muslims, specifically when they speak up, because they will just be labeled as Zionists, and after that they can just attack you or commit terrorist attack on you as well. But even though there are these kind of risks, I believe that Muslims in these particular situations should be on the front line of speaking up and fighting with these kind of anti-Semitic issues in Britain or elsewhere.
Do you think they need to make their voice heard perhaps more loudly?
Absolutely, because I know many Muslim friends in Britain. I'm talking with many of them. And one of the sad realities about Britain is that they usually tell me when Muslims are coming to Britain for example, as international students or workers, they are more normal than those British Muslims who are already British citizens. I think the UK is facing an issue of welcoming too many radicals in the country, and right now the UK doesn't know what to do with them, because there are many of them. Many of them want to speak, but they are afraid to speak because they will be rejected by their own community. And the moment they speak up, the number of people who will attack them, they are really high. They can just change, for example, the policies of your country with just voting, because there are so many of them right now. And as I said, they are extremely radical. You don't see such thing in some of the countries in the Middle East. The UAE, for example, is different. Bahrain is different. And these kind of countries are much more safe right now for Jews rather than Britain.
It's extraordinary. Well, Faza Alavi, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Faza is an Iranian artist and policy analyst.
And as we were talking, I saw the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, was walking into number 10 Downing Street because the Prime Minister is going to chair a meeting today with crime agencies. The Home Secretary will clearly have a big input into that. So to be fair to Starmer, that's why he's not on his way to Golders Green, but I think he should go.
Yeah, this afternoon, absolutely.
Because we know Kemi Badenoch was there yesterday afternoon, the Tory leader, and we're expecting Nigel Farage in Golders Green shortly, and when he's there, we'll bring that interview with you.
Wasn't it interesting what Faza was saying just there, that in Gulf states, in the Middle East, a lot of these hardline imams are really cracked down upon by the government. They don't want terrorism, they don't want hate speech. And that actually Jews are safer there. And we were hearing of lots of Jewish people in London thinking about moving to Israel to be safe. This is a country at war, and yet they want to move there because they're going to be safer.
If you remember, we spoke to Lord Polak just a few weeks ago after the terrible attack in Golders Green with the 4 ambulances, and he said he wouldn't be opposing his own children moving to Israel. I saw him last night actually at an event in Westminster.
Yeah.
And extended my commiserations to the latest attack on the Jewish community, and he said, I predicted it on your programme just 4 weeks ago. Sadly, his prediction was proved right.
And it does feel like an escalation because, of course, it's appalling that Jewish schools and synagogues need to be protected. That's true, but at least there are security measures that can be put in place. But walking down the street making you a target, that's an altogether different thing.
Standing at a bus stop,
Yeah,
you're a target.
exactly.
You're a target because of the way you're dressed is an expression of your faith. Shocking in Britain today. Now, in a change of tone, we're going to tell you why Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, is coming after your traditional tumble dryer. And Miriam will have quite an input on this.
I've got a tumble dryer moan, it's true. But first, if you want to dry your clothes outdoors rather than in the tumble dryer, you could go abroad and find some holiday sun. And here's our forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello again. Some sparkling spring sunshine in the south of France at the moment. That extends down into much of northern Italy and Croatia too. Some heavy showers in Spain, particularly across the east, perhaps affecting Barcelona and maybe Mallorca too. The heavy showers possible in Sicily and over the mainland of Greece, although most of the Greek islands dry, fine and sunny. We'll continue with sunny skies in Croatia right the way through the weekends. Could see a bit more cloud heading to Nice and a continued risk of some showers in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are we all having a good St George's Day? So much celebration here in Gravesend, but I'm delighted to speak now to some of the faith leaders in the community. Jim, we're going to start with you. It's your church, after all. What does this event mean to you?
Well, absolutely. We've got so much diversity and hospitality and inclusivity here today. We've been celebrating the life of St George. All this energy! And the parade through our town, just to show how united we are here in our town and nationally as well. It's been a wonderful celebration, really great.
Lots of people have been coming together to celebrate today.
Fantastic. Every year we all come out, you know, we have different faiths here, different communities, but one thing for sure is Gravesend is known for our communities to come out and support each other in these events. So fantastic turnout today. We had a parade at the weekend, we had over 15,000 people turn up to that parade, and today it's St George's Day. Fantastic, everyone. Enjoy the day.
Absolutely. And Maurice, it's so sunny today, and this is now the 20th year that this parade has been on.
It's inspirational for those around the country. We can see the togetherness, and it shows you that we as a united kingdom make a great Britain, and this is what we are all here to celebrate. And we must all enjoy not just the day, but the fact that St George is a unifying figure for us as a country.
And Ansar as well, this is just the most joyous occasion.
Well, absolutely wonderful to be here as usual. Again, lovely to see all the different faith communities coming together. Lovely to see. It's a great day as well for today as well. Compared to last year, it wasn't great, but today it's wonderful. And again, wonderful to see so many different children and different faith groups coming together and working in Gravesham.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, it's a push to net zero. The government is now planning to phase out your traditional tumble dryer. You know who to blame for this, of course. It is Mr Ed Miliband, who is the Energy Secretary. He claims it will cut bills long term. But others say it's a costly intervention into people's lives. So where does it end?
Well, we're now joined by the environmental scientist at Bangor University, Professor Christian Dunn. Professor Dunn, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm pleased to report it's a sunny day in London, so people can dry their washing outside. I do have a little bit of a bone to pick, personally, with these tumble dryers, because we bought one of these heat pump ones a few years ago. It was more expensive than the traditional condenser, but we were attracted by the idea of saving money. But there's only one slight problem. It doesn't dry your clothes.
Typical. There's net zero for you.
Indeed, I'm not a dryer engineer, so I can't give you advice on your dryer, I'm afraid. But what I would say,
we've ditched it.
Excellent, very sustainable. Yeah, just chucked it in landfill. Excellent.
No, we sold it, but anyway.
Well, I do have issue here because I am an environmental scientist, and I think we have to be moving towards net zero. I don't like that term, net zero, and I don't like the fact it's at 2030. It's kind of very arbitrary, but we do have to be reducing our emissions as a country and as a planet. Absolutely. But what really gets to me is like this kind of terminology, banning this, banning that. I hate it. And I think that this is such a serious issue that it requires far more serious and far more nuanced thinking and actions than just these sorts of gimmicks at the end of the day. This is a gimmick. This is, a political kind of stunt to say something. I disagree with that approach for us as a country to reduce our emissions. We have to reduce our emissions. We are seeing the effects of a changing climate on our planet. We are seeing changing of cropping regimes for farmers. We're seeing changing weather patterns. Climate change is affecting us in this country. It's affecting other countries. I know I work in Vietnam sometimes, and there are whole communities there that are having to change and move because of climate change.
Yeah, so
it is affecting
these attacks have obviously been widely condemned across the political...
Sorry, first question. We haven't got long, I'm afraid. But do you think the government should be using any incentives at all to encourage people to buy these machines, or just let the consumer decide?
Incentives, yes. Banning, absolutely no. I hate the terminology. It's negative. This should be a positive action, moving towards reducing emissions. That's what we should be going for, not this negative political point scoring.
Voice of common sense.
Absolutely.
And a voice of common sense too.
Professor Dunn, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
The ministers have got to take people with them on this, otherwise they'll just cause huge resentment.
Well, the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero said energy-efficient tumble dryers will save households up to £910 over their machine's 20-year lifetime.
20 years?
That's if you can bear it for that long, putting money back in the pockets of hard-working people. But you do need 3 hours to dry your trousers.
And they're more expensive to buy in the first place.
Exactly. Not
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunny weather to come for most of us today. Pretty warm as well. Still quite windy in the south, although not as windy as yesterday. 1 or 2 showers just cropping up across parts of the southwest of England. So 1 or 2 showers, Devon, Cornwall, Isles of Scilly possible this morning. Bit of mist and low cloud around the northeast as well. That should tend to melt away. And then, as I said, most places dry and sunny. Still a noticeable breeze coming in from the east. That'll bring temperatures down a bit on the east coast, but inland 21, 22, maybe 23 degrees Celsius, so that's going to feel pretty warm in the afternoon sunshine. The winds, as I said, not as strong as yesterday, but still quite noticeable. Increasing chance of a few more clouds coming into parts of South Wales this afternoon, and also here the possibility of a shower or two, particularly in Pembrokeshire. An increasing cloud for Northern Ireland. Also here, the threat, that's all it is, of some showers coming in at times into the evening, particularly across the west. Elsewhere, generally dry and sunny. That breeze noticeable if you're on the east coast of Scotland. Starting off with a bit of ha here this morning, but that hopefully will tend to clear away and we'll see quite a bit of sunshine. Staying dry and clear for the most part overnight, but we'll see more of that cloud coming into Northern Ireland, so increasing chance of seeing some showers here, perhaps into West Wales and southwest and northwest Scotland by the time we get to first thing tomorrow morning. Some misty conditions inland as temperatures tend to dip away down to 2 or 3 degrees over parts of northern England, not far off freezing in some rural spots, but generally temperatures holding up at 6 or 7 Celsius in most towns and cities. More sunny weather to come tomorrow and lighter winds for eastern parts and central parts of England, most of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, southwest England. A bit more cloud here, and I think we will see a few more showers tomorrow. Increasing chance of some heavy, even thundery downpours by the afternoon. But in the sunshine, we could get up to 25 or 26 degrees. Bye for now.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win our biggest prize of the year so far. You could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Good morning. It's at 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 30th of April, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we've been witnessing terror on the streets of Britain. Another attack on the Jewish community as police declare it a terrorist incident.
Down on the ground! Down on the ground! Step back! Hey, the taser! Jacket! Hey, the taser!
And from our politicians, empty rhetoric.
Know firsthand the anxiety that is causing in the community.
And our thoughts and prayers today and tonight will be the two Londoners.
But we stand in solidarity with those communities who right now are feeling threatened.
An extreme indulgence of anti-Semitism and extremism on our streets. It has to end.
Not enough is being done to protect Britain's Jewish community, and if Iranian agents are behind it, they should be expelled.
Well, that was the response after 2 Jewish people yesterday were stabbed in broad daylight in North London. And this morning, the government has pledged £25 million for extra security. A community living in fear has heckled the Met Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, and the local MP, Sarah Sackman, at the scene.
Do you think that visibly Jewish people are safe on the streets of London?
Extraordinary story. The Lib Dems, those virtue-signalling Lib Dems, admitting an unlawful discrimination with explosive claims a Christian candidate was mocked, abused and forced out of the party. David Campanale joined us earlier.
After the members voted for me in a democratic process, the activists said, "You didn't confess your Christian beliefs enough. Why didn't you disclose that you hold these Christian beliefs on issues of conscience?"
And a royal 9/11 tribute. The King and Queen say they stand in enduring solidarity with the American people as they commemorate those killed 25 years ago in New York.
Rinse and rip off. The Net Zero Secretary Ed Miliband is coming after your traditional tumble dryer and is pushing people to take much pricier heat pump models instead. He says it will be greener and save money.
I thought that...
He's a menace, isn't he?
What, Ed Miliband? Yeah.
He really is.
It's the Times...
And he never comes on GBNews, by the way.
No, that is very true. But I thought the guest we had from Bangor University was quite
very
sensible.
good.
I mean, I think probably most people agree we should be reducing our emissions, but we have reduced them by 50% in this country since the 1990s. So it's not that much further we can go.
Well, we're going to go to Golders Green now after the terror attack yesterday left 2 men seriously injured with our security editor, Mark White.
Yeah. Well, the Reform leader, Nigel Farage, is in the area. He has been meeting members of the local community here to express, Nigel, your solidarity and support for this community. But why don't you do that, first of all, before we get on to an exclusive line you want to bring us? Your reaction to what happened to you yesterday?
Well, look, I mean, you know, expressing solidarity and support, frankly, isn't much use.
Yeah.
Because it keeps happening, and the intervals between these awful assaults get shorter and shorter. I spoke on the telephone last Friday to Moishi, the guy that was viciously attacked, verbally and physically out working, and the fear in his voice, the sense that could have happened to him last week, and I think a sense here in this community that there is a sort of rapid downward spiral of events that actually does now make this an emergency. I don't think there's other words that can be used. And the Prime Minister keeps saying, my thoughts and prayers are love with the Jews. I'm sorry, absolutely useless. Maybe I'm misreading it, but I sensed this morning amongst this community that, yes, there's fear, of course, but it's almost bordering on anger.
I think you're absolutely right. I was here after the attack on the Hadsola ambulance depot after the 23rd of March. Then there was a bit of anger, real concern. Yeah. But now we saw it from the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, the local Labour MP, booed and heckled yesterday. People have had enough. What does the government need to do, do you think?
Let's have some leadership. Yeah. Let's actually distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. How do we have, and by the way, I've been banging on about this for years, not just with this government, the one before. How do we allow the IRGC? How do we allow the Muslim Brotherhood? These are organisations that promote hate and terrorism. They're allowed to actively operate in this country. One of them actually fundraises actively in this country. And what's interesting is, in Middle Eastern Muslim countries, these organisations are banned. So stand up as a Prime Minister and say, we recognise these groups as being terrorists, we're going to prescribe them. I'm also shocked by the lack of debate about the Iranian embassy and what they put out earlier this week. I mean, it was akin to calling for people to join something that literally is a whisker away from being a paramilitary organisation. There's no other way I can define what those words meant. And yet, what's happened? We've called the Iranian ambassador for a cup of tea and a nice chat. So I think, I think what this community would love to see is action from the government saying this is right, this is wrong. But let's face the truth, that this hatred is so deeply embedded, this is going to be a long battle.
And on the issue, the threat from Iran, there's an exclusive line that you want to bring us from a source that you've been speaking to, very concerning if true. Tell us what you've been told.
So I do have a source within the Iranian Persian diaspora who is one of the best connected human beings in the world that I know. And he told me last night that he knows for a fact that over the course of the last few weeks, there have been Iranian operatives that have been crossing the English Channel in small boats. To put that in simple terms, we are importing terrorists into our country from across the English Channel. And I challenge the British government, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Because I think given everything we're seeing, it almost makes sense that they would do that.
You trust this source implicitly? Is he that well connected?
I promise you I would not give you a story or give you a line that I wasn't sure of. This comes from very high-level intelligence, very high.
Well, you have been saying for a long time, I know, about the threat that there is across the English Channel and the fact that you have undocumented young men mostly coming across the Channel. We just don't have a handle on who they are.
No, and look, I can go all the way back to 2015. When the boats first started crossing the Mediterranean. I was in the European Parliament. I was saying if you allow people to stay, goodness knows what will happen. In 2015, ISIS openly boasted that they would use the Mediterranean as a means of getting their operatives into Europe. We are opening ourselves up to terror, and governments of all colours appear to be too gutless to do anything about it. Well, maybe this emergency on the streets of North London, maybe this merits finally a British government doing something.
Well, we're told, of course, from security sources that the Iranian threat is not just a threat to the Jewish community, but to the wider community in the UK as well. So specifically, what are you asking of the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister on this info, this intelligence that you've received?
Well, I've received great intelligence. I'm going to ask the Home Secretary publicly, am I right? Am I wrong? Or do I get a no comment? And if I get a no comment, I know that I'm right. And by the way, this threat to the Jewish community here on the streets, this is not just about the Jewish community in North London. This goes way wider. You know, if not this community, who's next?
£25 million extra for security. I mean, it's welcomed for what it is it?
Yeah, it's something. It's something. But the problem here is deeper than money. The problem here is a two-tier approach to policing, to justice, and allowing marches through the streets of London, shouting vile slogans, and nothing gets done about it. If any other group was to chant those sort of things, there'd be hundreds arrested. No. Weak British governments have led us to much of where we are.
If you were in government, what would you do about them?
Well, number one, I would not allow those marches, and I would not allow those chants to happen in Britain's streets. Simple as that. And if it did happen, you just arrest a lot of people and say this cannot be allowed. Peaceful protest, fine. Insightful chanting, not fine. And Suella Braverman, of course, called them hate marches not very long ago before she was sacked as Home Secretary. Prescribe terrorist organisations and, yes, support the community with extra resources.
OK, Nigel Farage, we'll let you get away because I know you've got
some... Get me an answer from the Home Secretary.
Well, we'll try. Thank you. So, Nigel Farage there, we'll just continue to leave you with those shots. I mean, he's been absolutely mobbed here as he moves his way down now towards some of the other shops on Golders Green Road to meet members of the community, to speak to them and to hear about their frustrations and their anger at what is unfolding here. But that breaking news line exclusively delivered to GB News from Nigel Farage, I think is just worth repeating. A source that Nigel Farage says for him is an impeccable source, very well connected within the sort of Persian diaspora here in the UK, telling him that within recent weeks, operatives from Iran have been among those coming across the English Channel on small boats, and he is demanding of the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister either confirmation of that or some kind of comment that they will be addressing and looking into those claims.
All right, Mark, that's Mark White in Golders Green. And of course, Miriam, if Nigel Farage is right, we are importing deadly terrorists into our midst.
Yeah, an organised attempt from...
And where are they? Do we know where they are? Do they know what
Absolutely.
camp they're in, or have they already done a bunk?
It's terrifying.
Shocking.
Well, the Prime Minister is holding a meeting in Downing Street, as Mark White just told us, with criminal justice agencies. And let's see what Keir Starmer had to say.
Can I just say thank you to you all for coming in at short notice for this really important discussion about criminal justice in the aftermath of an appalling attack last night in Golders Green, a terror attack in Golders Green. It is important that we come together very quickly now to take the necessary action. What we saw last night was people being targeted because they are Jewish, and absolutely clear about that. And of course, our thoughts are with the victims and wishing them a speedy recovery, with their families and loved ones, and of course with the volunteers, the first responders, who were quite incredible in their response yesterday. But there's no getting away from the fact that this was not a one-off. This has been a series of attacks on our Jewish community, particularly in recent weeks. And there is a very deep sense of anxiety, of concern about security, about safety, about identity, frankly. I went to Kenton Synagogue last week and heard firsthand from some in the synagogue who, of course, have been subject to an attack there. So we have to understand that wider impact and that visceral feeling that many in our Jewish community have. And we have to be really clear that an attack on our Jewish community is an attack on all of us, and we have to approach it in that way. Now, yesterday, as you probably saw, I chaired a COBRA meeting, which some around the table were at. That was dealing predominantly with our immediate response and how we coordinate that response, but also about what enhanced security and other measures need to go in place. And we've already got enhanced funding in place. That's been in for some time, but we're uplifting that, as has been announced this morning. We are fast-tracking legislation to deal with malign state actors, and of course we must absolutely deal with the root causes of both anti-Semitism and extremism. But today is about part of the response which is really important, which is the criminal justice response, because a number of people have been arrested, a number are going through the criminal justice system, and it's really important that we are able collectively to demonstrate that the response will be swift and visible, and that's why I wanted to get you around the table today. I do recognise and respect the various independence that's carried by people around the table. I understand it, I respect it, and we can operate within that framework, but I do think there's a wider duty on all of us in terms of the confidence in the criminal justice system to be able to deal with appalling attacks like this, to show that it can act in a swift, agile and visible way. And I look forward to a discussion with you as to how we make that happen. I want to make a wider point here, because it's often said after an attack like that, a terror attack, an appalling attack, an anti-Semitic attack last night, it's often said that we stand with our Jewish community. Well, we do stand with our Jewish community, of course we do. But it's our fight as well. It's the fight of everyone in this country, because it's about what sort of a country do we want to live in. So yes, we stand with, we support our Jewish community, of course we do, but we've got to make this a bigger fight. It is a fight for what we believe is the kind of country that we ought to and want to live in. So this is our fight, and it's really important, I think, that we broaden it in that way. Thank you very much. And I'm going to pass, I think, now to you, Sarah, for...
Earlier, the Home Secretary is attending, Shabana Mahmood, and other emergency service representatives after that shocking stabbing in Golders Green yesterday.
Yeah, yet to find out whether or not he will attend the scene later on today. Well, let's move on to some breaking news now, and a major emergency response is underway at Farringdon Station in central London.
Armed police, fire crews and ambulance teams have evacuated the station following reports of a suspected gas leak.
Well, witnesses describe a large presence of emergency vehicles lining the streets outside, and we're now hearing from British Transport Police that multiple people are receiving medical attention. We'll have the latest soon.
Certainly will. But a tone change here. It's time. You haven't got much time left, of course, for the great British giveaway. Just one day left, so you could win a new 4-berth camper van and £25,000 tax-free cash. It's worth £92,000. Here's how you can make it all yours.
Lines close tomorrow on your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far, as you could drive away in this brand new Benivan 122 camper van worth over £67,000. This brand new 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4 with its pop-up bunks and comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and spacious living area. You can even drive it on your existing driving licence. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like this year. Don't miss out, as lines close at 4 p.m. tomorrow. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, we've just heard from the Prime Minister. Is he doing enough to keep the Jewish community safe?
We're going through that and more with Carol Malone and Nigel Nelson, our panel today. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
What is the time? It's 11:20, Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK with Andrew and Miriam, and we've got our panel here, Carol Malone and Nigel Nelson. Nigel, that was an extraordinary claim by Nigel Farage, speaking exclusively to GBNews, about how he's got a great source in the Iranian diaspora, as he put it, who says, effectively, would-be terrorists are crossing the channel illegally into, and disappearing into our midst.
Yeah, and it's not impossible, I would accept that. It's just extremely unlikely.
Why?
Well, if you were, I mean, obviously it depends on who you are, but if you are an Iranian intelligence agency sending your agents over here, the last thing you would want to do is put them on a small boat. The moment they get here, they're immediately in contact with authority, so they're within the system. What you do if you are a secret service is you give your agent a false passport and you fly him into Heathrow. So, as I say, not impossible. It just feels terribly unlikely if you're accusing the Iranian state of doing something like this.
You say it's not impossible, but I mean, I think it's the perfect way to get them in. You say that they'll be on record when they come to this country.
No, I said they would be in contact immediately with authority, not on record.
So they give a false name. They've got no papers, no passwords, no
As you
phones,
would if you flew to Heathrow.
No phones, no nothing. And so they give a false name. And if you have a great faith in our system, if you think every single person who comes into this country is being tracked and looked at and kept in one place, because a lot of them just disperse and run away then. It's highly likely
as you do at Heathrow. I mean, the same thing applies. You come on
does it matter whether they've come on small boats or illegally on planes? I mean, the point is the Iranian state deliberately sending over people to deliver terrorist attacks on our...
We know the likelihood is yes. They've tried 20 times so far to do just that.
And who were the Iranians in court last year on trial for doing exactly that?
We know that they're doing it. I was only questioning the method of getting into Britain. But certainly Iran is a threat to Britain. I mean, there is absolutely no question about that. If we were working for Iran International, the TV station they've been trying to close down, we'd be in severe danger. I mean, we know that they're actually doing that.
It's interesting Farage says that today, because there's a story in the papers and he's saying that if Reform get into power, the first thing they will do is to stop the boat, and they're saying they will do that.
Didn't Keir Starmer say that? Didn't Keir Starmer say that?
Well, he did say that, but who do you believe more? I think I know
Rishi Sunak, in fact, stop the boat ban.
But I mean, what he will do is leave the ECHR pretty sharpish. I mean, Nigel doesn't think it's going to make a difference. I think it'll make a huge difference.
Well, not the small boats. No, it'll make a difference in other areas, but not on the small boat bit.
You'll be able to deport. You will not have to.
You won't. Where to?
Well, wherever.
Well, exactly, wherever. This is always the problem.
If we make our rules, if we make our own human rights laws and rules, we can scrap the thing that says don't send them back if they don't want to go to their own country, or their own country won't take them back. Send them somewhere else. Who cares where they go?
But where else? I mean, the whole thing is...
Let's go to Rwanda again.
Well, the
Labour
Rwanda
was so
thing...
scared of that plan, it scrapped it on day one.
He did, and the reason being is it had already cost 700 million quid on the basis that we got 4 people there voluntarily. It would have cost £10 billion, so it wasn't value for money, and we're only talking about a few hundred people anyway.
It was the deterrent effect of Rwanda. It would have been a deterrent.
They could only process a few hundred at once, but that wasn't the sum total of all the people that were going to be
sent
there.
We weren't going to send 70,000.
No, but you don't need to. That's the point. As soon as there is a probability that if you land in this country illegally, you're going to be sent to Rwanda, suddenly all the boats will stop.
There was no evidence of that happening, which is why...
They didn't try it.
Why didn't they try it?
Why didn't they try it?
They went to Ireland.
Yeah,
and the Irish Prime Minister
we wouldn't take them back.
I'm sorry, the Irish Prime Minister complained and said, get yourself under control. So there was a deterrent.
A few went to Ireland, you're absolutely right. But what the whole
point...
Quite a lot. The reason that the Permanent Secretary at the Home Office wouldn't sign it off as value for money is because no evidence was presented this would act as a deterrent.
Well, we're just saying it did. People were coming in fewer numbers when they thought they were going to be taken off. But also, you both know, it's not about evidence. It was because that was a Tory plan. It was a Rishi Sunak plan, and that's exactly why Starmer scrapped it. But he was terrified it might work.
Well, no, I think he was terrified it might fail.
No, I think he was terrified.
The whole point about it was,
at
no point was there, for all the time that was in place, it never achieved anything.
What has this government achieved since they got in? on stopping the small boats.
Okay.
Record numbers are arriving.
You're absolutely right, and we're obviously not smashing enough gangs.
Not smashing any
but
gangs.
on a weekly basis, the National Crime Agency is smashing gangs. The people are constantly in court. There was I think it was last week or the week before, a Carefully car wash, which was running a people trafficking racket. The 2 people who were doing that went down for 19 years.
But you do know that 2 people go down and another 10 come and take their place.
Absolutely.
This is a worldwide organisation.
Yes, I agree with you. Smashing the gang, but what I'm saying is the gangs are being smashed. Now, you may argue they're not being smashed enough.
They're never going to be smashed at a decent enough rate. What has to be stopped is the people coming and landing in this country. That's what's got to be stopped.
Right. Well, in which case, then, Rwanda doesn't help.
It does help.
The way to stop them coming here is to discourage them from crossing the channel to get here.
I do find it extraordinary that you don't think that the prospect of being detained and deported rapidly would be a deterrent. I mean, people are coming across here because they are told that they can make a life here, that they'll be given food and shelter, that if they've got malign intentions, they'll be able to integrate into the community. That's why people are coming. If they knew that they were going to be detained and deported pretty much instantly, it doesn't matter whether it's Rwanda or anywhere else, they wouldn't come. They wouldn't pay their €5,000 to the smuggling gangs. They'd go somewhere else or not come at all.
That's why we have no evidence.
Come on, Nigel, you don't need evidence for that. This is
an extraordinary thing to say. It's common sense,
You are doing a very
Would you pay £5,000 to go on holiday if you knew you were going to be chucked out the minute you go to? No, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Exactly. Point proven.
I'm not quite sure the comparison works.
You're doing a very passive impersonation of an ostrich. You are burying your head on this.
Well,
you
look,
really are.
Look, the answer is to try and do offshore processing.
We had offshore processing. That was Rwanda.
No, it wasn't processing.
Yes,
it was deportation.
It wasn't
and once they got there, they stayed there.
No,
so
that's
that was a different thing. Yes, it is.
Have you ever heard the Radio 4 comedy show Just a Minute?
I have.
I think you'd be superb. Talk for a minute on something.
I'll apply.
Without DVD.
I want to talk to you, Campanale,
Yes,
about do you think Ed Miliband is right to tell you what sort of tumble dryer you should use in your home?
I don't think it's the government's job to be telling us that we should or should not be using tumble dryers. But Ed Miliband is. What he's saying is that there has to be a special kind of tumble dryer. You know, I wonder if this bloke sits at home wondering what kind of bonkers scheme to come up with next. I mean, he's insane. He's a zealot. He shouldn't be in power at all. And he's saying, I mean, you know, the country has never been in more danger. The streets are running with dangerous people, as we've seen over the past 3 days. And he's talking about this. And this week he was also talking about... He's talking about the profits that BP are making and how obscene they are. This government is making 20 million quid a day from the inflated fuel prices. And does he not realise how stupid he looks? The Treasury is getting an extra 20 mil a day from extortionate fuel prices.
What about
and now we've got to...
What about your tumble dryer?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I do have one, yes. And obviously,
is it on a lot?
And it's not a heat pump one. I think that the answer to heat pumps overall is...
Not buy them.
They're not going to work until they come down in price.
They're very expensive.
Yeah. So the whole thing is... The same thing applies to boilers. You can get a boiler for £3,000.
Yeah.
A heat pump, an air source heat pump will cost you between 14 and 28.
I don't think it is just about price, because it's about how usable they are. So, for example, electric cars, I agree, they come down in price. A lot of people buy them, fine. But actually, heat pumps for houses, a lot of people say they don't work.
Yeah.
And my experience of one of these tumble dryers, it doesn't dry your clothes very quickly. That's why it's energy efficient.
Okay.
So if you've got small children and you need something drying in half an hour, it's useful.
I wonder if Ed Miliband's got one in his own home. I wonder if he has. Because you remember when he was telling us all to have an electric car? He didn't have one.
But let me tell you, he hasn't got solar panels on his £1.6 million house
maybe
either.
Maybe the roof
Doesn't
isn't
practice
suitable.
what he preaches.
He's telling everyone to buy plug-in solar panels. He hasn't got any at all. And his constituency home does not have a heat pump. So this is the energy sector who's telling all of us to buy.
He should practice what he preaches. It's terrible hypocrisy. No.
OK, I agree with you. I mean, I can't understand why he's not got solar panels on his roof.
Yeah.
Since the Iran war began, there's been a 62% rise in the number of people who've been buying solar panels.
Not him, though.
Which is probably quite sensible. I don't know why he hasn't got one.
He's taken a huge swathe of the countryside for solar farms, and
well, there might be reasons. I mean, they are not suitable on some roofs, and it does depend which direction your roof is facing.
People in his street have them, so
yes,
just
but
can't
it
be
depends with the pitch of your roof and whether or not it's south-facing. But anyway,
very welcome to come on here and discuss his
why he does or doesn't have
net
solar
zero
panels.
plans in his own home.
Maybe he doesn't use electricity. Maybe he uses candles.
Maybe he lives in the dark.
Is your tumble dryer on every day, Nigel, out of interest?
Actually, we do have it on most days,
there
yes.
We are. He's got his tumble dryer
on National TV.
I love my tumble dryer. I love it.
Well, it's nice and warm and sunny today, so we can all go home and use our washing lines.
Using the tumble dryer is quicker.
There we are. And the towels are softer, Malone.
Yeah, the art towels are definitely softer.
On that, we have a statement from the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. What a ridiculous title that department
Let
is,
me guess,
by the way.
you're not going to read it.
I'm not reading it.
They have said energy-efficient tumble dryers will save households up to £910 over their machine's 20-year lifetime.
Yours would only last 2 months.
Of
You're on so
hard-working people. If you want your clothes drying, you might want to seek another option.
Mrs. Garrett tells us we're going to save 350 quid a year on our energy bills, didn't he? What happened there?
That
didn't happen either.
Anyway, Nigel, you go back to your tumble dryer later.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you'll need to start it now, because it will take about 8 hours to dry.
Here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis, who's also got a tumble dryer.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. 11:30, the headlines. The Prime Minister says the response to the Golders Green terror attack must be swift, agile and visible. Sir Keir Starmer has announced an extra £25 million to boost security for Jewish communities, with increased patrols across the country. Police say a 45-year-old suspect remains in custody. Oil prices have surged to their highest level since 2022 after reports the US could be preparing fresh military action against Iran. Brent crude jumped to more than $126 a barrel as fears grow of further escalation in the Middle East. Experts are warning that global food systems are under growing pressure from conflict. A report led by Anglia Ruskin University has said that the risk could threaten economies and even human survival. Researchers also say that urgent action is needed from governments across the earth, preventing long-term collapse. Millions of households here at home are cutting back, with some skipping meals due to the rising costs caused by the Middle East conflict. Research suggests that consumer confidence has dropped to its lowest level since 2022. Experts are also warning that more families across the UK could face yet further financial strain. And a report is warning that organised crime is operating across UK high streets, with some shops acting as a front. The Chartered Trading Standards Institute has said that up to half of some retailers may have links to criminal networks. Police officers from multiple forces across the country say the problem is growing and they're facing major funding cuts to their police forces. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup of all the top stories just after midday. But now we're going to head back to Britain's newsroom with Andrew and Miriam.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
You know, the tumble dryer story will infuriate people watching and listening, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just butt out of people's lives.
I think
governments should keep their nose clean.
Well, if there's an environmentally friendly alternative that is just as good as a product, then fair enough, recommend it.
More expensive, and they tell you it will save you £190 over 20 years, £19 a year.
Yeah,
But
that's because it only heats the clothes up to 50 degrees rather than 70 degrees, which means it takes hours to dry them.
And they're more expensive to buy in the first place, and you know, because you had one. They don't fucking work.
No, not good enough. Not if you need something quickly. Anyway, coming up at noon, some other people probably with strong opinions on tumble dryers, although perhaps they want to launch them into space. I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm actually a massive fan of heat pumps. I think everyone should have a heat pump, but not to heat their house, to cool it down. Because what is a heat pump? It's air conditioning. And we don't have any air conditioning in this country. Any rich country has air conditioning as standard. I think every home should have air conditioning, and that is a heat pump. Right. I also happen to have a gas boiler.
Do you stick it on the wrong way round, basically, and it pumps the heat out of your home?
I mean, it is the only way that you can cool down. I mean, your fridge has a heat pump in it. That's how your fridge is cold. It's the technology that we have to... And you can run it in reverse to heat things up, but it's a bit less powerful to heat things up than it is to cool things down.
When I woke up this morning, I never, ever thought the conversation at any point during the day would be heading in this direction.
Oh, come on, Dawn. You've known Tom long enough.
There is that. When I was a kid, we didn't have tumble dryers. we couldn't afford them, and they were too expensive to run.
They are expensive to run.
My mum was convinced at some point they'd blow us all up.
You know the crazy policy in Britain, though, for years, we had subsidies for heat pumps that heated things, but we didn't subsidise heat pumps that cooled things down. So a two-way heat pump, as they have in loads of countries, which are really useful, because I would love air conditioning for that 1 week of really, really hot weather where it's impossible to sleep that we have every single year. And yet the government doesn't treat those two things the same. Anyway, lots else. We're not just... It's not the heat pump show today. It really, really isn't.
No. We've also got robots. He's very excited about robots as well, aren't you, Tom?
Yes. Well, there's an airline that is using humanoid robots for loading up packages in the aeroplane, and it's just the start of, I think, what we're going to start to see across the world, sort of walking down our streets, doing more and more everyday activities. It's going to start to feel like the AI revolution has come when we start to see robots just doing day-to-day things, and I think we're just at the cusp of that now.
It's when they serve your gin and tonic on the plane, you've got to worry.
We've got a marvellous video of, in China, they did a 2-lane marathon. One lane was for humans, and the other lane was for robots.
And who won?
The robots.
One of the robots
What's the point, though?
Well, one of the robots did actually fall over, by the way.
Quite a few. I mean, there's some marvellous footage.
But did the robot do it in under 2 hours?
So it was a half marathon. It did it in 56 minutes.
Pretty good.
What's the point?
We're also doing some serious stories here. We're talking about the horrific attacks on Jewish people in the country. And we are also talking about what the government are doing about it. I mean, I heard earlier on, you know, thoughts and prayers and all that, and we're making more money available. That's not...
I call it empty rhetoric, Dawn.
It is, yeah. It's playing our anti-Semitism bingo, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't stop anything.
Do we think the Prime Minister will go to Golders Green later?
I don't know why he hasn't already.
I somehow doubt it. Do you remember when he went to Southport and he was shouted at?
Yeah, I think that's a problem.
He does not want those images ahead of the elections.
I think his advisors will be saying, don't do it.
Yeah. But it looks gutless.
It does.
Yeah. And we're also going on the beer with Angela Rayner.
Oh,
yes, that's very interesting story.
Well, all that's coming up from Tom and Dawn at midday. But coming up next...
Should religion and politics be kept apart? The Dems have admitted unlawful discrimination with explosive claims that Christian candidate was mocked, abused and forced out of the party.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. For many of us, it is going to stay fine and sunny as we go through the rest of today, but not everywhere. There will be some showery bursts of rain across parts of the southwest in particular, and these will push their way a little bit further northwards as well as we go through the day, all because of a weather system that's currently to the southwest of us. So some changeable wet weather in parts towards the west and southwest. Elsewhere, though, as I mentioned, it's looking dry and it's looking sunny. There is a bit of a breeze around, and so that breeze may make it feel a little bit fresher than you might expect, especially seeing that temperatures are widely going to be above average for the time of year. High teens or low 20s for many, just a little bit fresher towards North Sea coastal parts and also in the southwest where we have that cloud and that showery rain. Staying fine as we go through the end of the day across Scotland. Lots of blue sky, lots of sunshine as we go through the evening. Similar across northern England. Across Northern Ireland, however, some of that cloud, some of that showery rain will be pushing its way through. Could be a bit heavy at times. Also across some parts of western, southwestern Wales and still across areas of Devon and Cornwall. Some further clouds, some further showery rain. Always worth bearing in mind there could be some rumbles of thunder. Most places, though, having a dry picture this evening and staying dry with lots of clear sky overnight. Just a bit more cloud towards western areas and a few outbreaks of rain at times. Where we get those clear skies, well, it could turn a bit fresh, a bit chilly first thing tomorrow morning. There could be a touch of frost in some prone spots. Markedly milder than this across western areas where we have that cloud. Then through tomorrow, yes, a bit of cloud and a bit of rain at times across western parts of Scotland, much of Wales and also southwest England and some parts of Northern Ireland too. Central and eastern areas of England, however, having a lot of sunshine yet again, and with that sunshine, temperatures are set to be even higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 25 or 26 Celsius, a bit fresher towards the west. Watch out for high UV. Bye-bye.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night. This is the Saturday Five.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 19 minutes to 12. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And Lib Dems have been rightly criticised after blocking a candidate to be an MP over his Christian views, which were well known, by the way.
Absolutely. Well, the party have admitted to unlawful religious discrimination and breaching the human rights of former BBC journalist David Campanale.
He joined us earlier, calling for the Liberal Democrats to hold an important inquiry and investigation into the way he was treated.
But the issue now is, what about all those people who were let down in Sutton and Cheam who wanted to vote for me, who were members who democratically chose me? My appeal is yet to be heard. I don't know if you can imagine this, but my appeal against deselection has yet to be completely heard. So I may
4
actually
years
come out
later.
of this. But the party also needs to hold an investigation.
Yeah. Well, let's speak to Sam Armstrong now from the Free Speech Union. Sam, good morning. Thank you for joining us on Britain's Newsroom. What's your reaction to the news that David Campanale has won this case, that the Liberal Democrats have conceded that they did break the law and discriminate against him?
Well, I'm very glad for David, who's somebody I know and like. I happen to think he's totally mad in the first place for wanting to join the Liberal Democrats. But they've always been his views, and he's tried to join it. And he joined a party that he believed kind of was compatible with his Christian faith. In fact, if you go back to the origins of liberalism or liberal thought in this country, it was very, very much a kind of Christian project. I think Alexis de Tocqueville, that great liberal writer, wrote that despotism may govern without faith, but liberty cannot. And he joined it in that spirit, and joined in the spirit of great liberal leaders like Disraeli that were Christians. But the Liberal Democratic Party, I'm afraid, is now neither liberal nor democratic. He was duly elected by members who knew his faith, and the central party, the powers that be, said, do you know what? You can hold any view you like other than a Christian one. And I fear that is worryingly emblematic of a trend that's spreading across this country.
And Sam, do you think, though, that political parties do have the right to have a position on a particular topic? So let's take the topic of abortion, because that was one of the criticisms of David. Let's say a political party decided that its policy was to liberalise abortion law further. Well, somebody like David could not bring themselves to agree with that view, and therefore could they not rightly be kicked out of the party for taking that position?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the Free Speech Union, actually, we don't take as many cases as you might think about parties discriminating, precisely because we think, you cannot be a Reform Member of Parliament, for example, if you believe that we need millions more migrants coming into this country. It's incompatible. However, we've always had a long legacy, a kind of established constitutional convention in this country, that there are such things as conscience votes. And the individual MPs can hold their own beliefs on these issues, like abortion, like euthanasia, and they're entitled to vote on the basis of their deeply held conscience when those votes come. That's one of the best things about British democracy, actually. Often these decisions have gone against the way that I might like them to have gone. But it's always been the case that MPs that share most of their views with each other can understand the fact that people have different religious faith views on these subjects and might approach those particular issues differently. And it's sad that the Lib Dems of all seem to be the least liberal about continuing that constitutional convention.
It reminds me of many years ago, you remember, Sam, Alistair Campbell told Tony Blair, we don't talk about God, because he thought it put voters off. I mean, I think it's fantastic you've got somebody like David Campanale, is proud of his Christian views, and he should be allowed to flourish. in the Liberal Democrats.
And the point is, that's not quite true for all faiths, is it? We know that people of perhaps the Muslim faith or other different religions are held to a very, very different standard. And there's the kind of understanding that they may approach those issues with the religious faith. But there seems to be some problem on the left with accepting the continued role that Christianity, that our national faith, and Britain remains a Christian country, that is an acceptable view to come at politics from. Now, I suppose that's fine, and that's their right to hold that political view. But where it becomes unlawful and illegal, as what's happened here, is when people are discriminated against for just expressing basic tenets of their faith. And I'd be very, very worried that in the next 10, 15 years, it is going to become ever harder for people who hold the Christian faith, our national religion, to express those in public. And I almost worry that we'll end up being like one of those countries that you hear from time to time going on these lists of places where Christians are truly and dangerously persecuted just for their faith in this country. And of course, it's already happening a bit in the form of buffer zones around abortion clinics, and there are calls to criminalise the expression of Christian faith, or in some cases, silent prayer, in ever more locations around our country.
Sam, just extremely briefly, what do you think should happen next? The Liberal Democrats have admitted breaking the law. They haven't apologised. What do you think Ed Davey should do?
Well, he needs to hold himself to precisely the same standard as he keeps calling on our Prime Minister and previous Prime Ministers to do, which is, if you break the law, apologise, and frankly, if he's had anything to do with it, he probably needs to resign, according to his own standard.
Sam Armstrong.
Don't think that's going to happen, but a good idea, Sam.
We watch and wait. Thanks so much, Sam Armstrong from the Free Speech Union. Now, a Liberal Democrat spokesperson said...
This is an ongoing legal case. It would not be appropriate to comment.
Liberal Democrats are home to people of all faiths, and none, including many Christians. 3 Liberal Democrat MPs in neighbouring seats to Sutton and Cheam are practising Christians, including party leader Ed Davey.
In fact, Ed Davey, when I interviewed him last year, about interviewing, looking after his very disabled son, he and his wife actually read the Bible.
Yeah.
Every day.
It's extraordinary what's happened to David. I'd love to have a Liberal Democrat on come and defend their behaviour. We watch and wait. Well, coming up next, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer says the criminal justice system must respond to the suspected terrorist attack in Golders Green in a swift, agile and visible way.
Reassuring words, or is it empty rhetoric? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again. Some sparkling spring sunshine in the south of France at the moment. That extends down into much of northern Italy and Croatia too. Some heavy showers in Spain, particularly across the east, perhaps affecting Barcelona and maybe Mallorca too. The heavy showers possible in Sicily and over the mainland of Greece, although most of the Greek islands dry, fine and sunny. We'll continue with sunny skies in Croatia right the way through the weekends. Could see a bit more cloud heading to Nice and a continued risk of some showers in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. It's GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There's a growing anti-marriage movement emerging in South Korea. Last month, a major pop star made headlines when she said, "If I don't want any children, why marry?" A view that is now being echoed by thousands of women. So this afternoon, we're asking, should women be turning away from marriage?
And you'll see that the birth rate
in South Korea is absolutely catastrophically low. I think it's something like 0.7 or 0.8 children for women. It's still about 1.4 here, which is low, but obviously a lot higher. And the problem in South Korea specifically, and many Southeast Asian countries, is that whilst the world has modernized in some ways, so women now get great educations, there's a lot of pressure on them to have great careers, the pressure on them to do everything at home has not changed. So it's a really gendered society. Women are expected to do everything in the home.
We have to remember that men are women's apex predator. You are more likely to be killed by the man that you marry than any other 8 billion person on this planet. So it's one of those things where it's like it shouldn't be entered too lightly. And I think it's really important that women feel empowered. For the first time in history, we as women no longer rely on men for anything.
They're also women's greatest defenders, and we see that particularly teenage girls are much safer when they live with their father. They're much more likely to be protected from other predatory men. You're shaking your head,
women,
but that's what the statistics say.
No, you're more protected by women. No, you're reading.
Hold on. Nadia, let Miriam finish talking.
In men, all the jobs that men do that are absolutely crucial to society, that we as women would not be safe or able to exist if those men didn't do those jobs for us.
Okay,
but we could do those jobs. We could do those jobs.
You want to fight on the front line of the war?
GB News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Well, the government's pledged £25 million additional money to enhance security for Jewish communities after that terrible terror attack in Golders Green where 2 Jewish men were stabbed in broad daylight.
Well, a 45-year-old man, a British national born in Somalia who came to the UK legally, is in custody after being arrested on suspicion of attempted murder.
Well, joining us now is counter-terrorism security consultant Kevin Jewell. Kevin, you may not be up to speed, but Nigel Farage told this programme earlier that he has had information from well-placed sources in the Iranian community that Iranian terror operatives have been crossing the channel illegally in small boats in the last few weeks. Would you be surprised by that?
Good morning to you. And the short answer is no, I wouldn't be surprised. I did see the interview with Nigel Farage and he made some interesting points. So putting to one side for a moment that particular aspect, you know, it was interesting that he and others sort of recognise that this is a wider issue with regard to threat to society as a whole, not just to do with anti-Semitism. That's one aspect. You know, it's a complicated picture. You know, terrorism, mental health, hate crimes, they're all intertwined, and you know we keep getting comment that you know lots is being done, and we're talking about £25 million extra being pledged. You know, this is a wider and deeper issue, because unfortunately this won't be the last attack. Say Jewish community being targeted is an easy hit, if I dare use those words, for people that wish to go down that route. But from a wider issue and society as a whole, there is a lot of work to be done behind the scenes. I say when we talk about mental health, and that's not meant as an excuse in any way, but it was only, or it seems like only a few weeks ago when we were talking about the attacks on a train. We looked at Ruda Cabana, not terrorist, fully understand that. But we've already learned this individual has a mental health history. So when we talk about protective security, yes, absolutely needed. But you know the cutbacks and things that have taken place over the years, this is what it all culminates in, unfortunately.
Kevin Jewell, thank you so much for coming on. Sorry that was brief. We have reached the end of the hour, but appreciate your thoughts on this concerning matter.
Indeed, and we do wonder if the Prime Minister will make it to Golders Green today.
Indeed. Well, I'll be back tomorrow with Britain's Newsroom, and you're having a day off? Well, you're writing, aren't you? But anyway, coming up next.
Tom and Dawn with Good Afternoon Britain. See you soon.
Reportedly, the suspect suspect in yesterday's double stabbing had been referred to the Counter-Extremism Prevent programme.
Yeah, we will be talking to somebody from Prevent about the situation and where we go from here.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunny weather to come for most of us today. Pretty warm as well. Still quite windy in the south, although not as windy as yesterday. 1 or 2 showers just cropping up across parts of the southwest of England. So 1 or 2 showers, Devon, Cornwall, Isles of Scilly possible this morning. Bit of mist and low cloud around the northeast as well. That should tend to melt away. And then, as I said, most places dry and sunny. Still a noticeable breeze coming in from the east. That'll bring temperatures down a bit on the east coast, but inland 21, 22, maybe 23 degrees Celsius, so that's going to feel pretty warm in the afternoon sunshine. The winds, as I said, not as strong as yesterday, but still quite noticeable. Increasing chance of a few more clouds coming into parts of South Wales this afternoon, and also here the possibility of a shower or two, particularly in Pembrokeshire. An increasing cloud for Northern Ireland, also here